Have you ever experienced a glitch in our world? A bird flying in place, weird cloud formations, black holes, things standing still. It's like the programmer accidentally left inconsistencies in the simulation, which gives the civilization an existential crisis. Part 1 showed us that Bayonetta 2 has a lot of inconsistencies that concluded to the theory that indicated it might have been a dream. Why are there so many inconsistencies, and what is finally going to happen in Bayonetta 3? What if I flipped the script and told you Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2 are both in Cereza's head? Whether it be a dream, a hallucination, or not, this is Bayonetta's Wonderland theory. Remember when we calculated what year Bayonetta 1 took place? It's a sinister coincidence that another medium was released in the same year, 1951. While I was filming the cinematics of Bayonetta 2, I came across this strange quote.
"I'm just an innocent little girl lost in Wonderland, suffering at the hands of the Queen's trumped-up troops."
This is where Bayonetta meets Loki for the first time. Now, it could just be an exaggeration, or even a sarcastic metaphor that Bayonetta banters, but it just made me investigate further into the classic film, Alice in Wonderland. I asked Mr. Kamiya if he has ever watched Alice in Wonderland, to which he replied, has read the book. If you haven't seen the animated film, I suggest you watch it with the hindsight of our Bayonetta. In the eyes of a child, a lot of the fantasy scenes can be pulled off as magic or classic Disney, but it's when you've grown up and looked into it with the eyes of an adult, things start to become ominous. Just a disclaimer, I will only be referencing Alice in Wonderland the animation, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, not the two modernized films, even though I did enjoy them. Chronologically, it starts off with Alice and her sister, Edith, which bears resemblance to our Cereza and the Umbran Elder, or possibly even her mother when she was imprisoned. The sister also references Northumbria, an early medieval Anglo-Saxon kingdom in what is now called Northern England and Southeast Scotland. Initially, to me, it sounded like Umbra. And since Bayonetta's origin is British, this could entail where the real Cereza is sleeping. Edith also refers to Alice as my dear child, which is similar to how Balder addresses our Cereza. Alice is also known for communicating and seeing humanoid behavior with animals. Dinah, which could be a reference to Genesis in the Bible, mirrors the relationship of Bayonetta and Madama Butterfly. Tweedledee and Tweedledum, while originally from the sequel novel Through the Looking Glass, could be visions of Loki and Lopta, as Dee and Dum's carefreeness could be satire of both the Sovereign One and the Prophet in how they are monitoring the realm of chaos, or demigods in general. In the film, Tweedledee and Tweedledum also refer to Father William. While they only first appear in the sequel, Alice recites this in chapter 5. It reminded me of Father Balder and how high-ranking Lumen sages are addressed. I suggest you pause the video and read it for yourself because it's about to get really deep. It's about a son questioning his father on being so old, but his father digresses and argues that he was sanctimonious in his youth. This is the deepest I'll go with this, even if it goes deeper, of being a parody of another poem. But in summary, about this coincidence, this could be a metaphor for possessed Father Balder and how he feels as though he's in the right. No pun intended. Alice's encounter with the flowers radiates Elrond's encounter with Bayonetta, both ending on a bad note. Here's an interesting one. When Alice finally grows to the size of trees, the mother bird exclaims that she is a serpent. Upon further investigation, the source novel originally grew Alice's neck longer rather than scaling her whole body. That reminded me of a few things. Bayonetta's ability to turn into a serpent in Bayonetta 2, and more literal evidence, Lustitia. In one scene, before Alice meets the purple cat, there are 3 trees that are colored red, blue, and purple, coinciding with the color themes of Bayonetta 1, Bayonetta 2, and Bayonetta 3. The arrows and signs on the trees could be symbolic of all the time travel that happens between each branch and each game. If this is a direct clue, which I highly doubt, again I highly doubt, there may be some multiversal travel between the games in Bayonetta 3. I found this coincidence very interesting and could be something the writers and Mr. Kamiya picked up from when the story was first being written for Bayonetta, from the very start, 2008. With plans of Bayonetta 4 in his mind, I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Kamiya has the whole story of what's to come already set. My favorite reference is one I remember in episode 2 of our Bayonetta 3 theories. This was Alice meeting the purple cat named Cheshire. In Bayonetta, Cheshire is the name of the purple handmade plushie that the little Cereza has. Cheshire is also mentioned in Bayonetta 2 very briefly.
Cat always landing on his feet, Cheshire.
Now, I tried to connect the Tea Party and the Mad Hatter, and the only one I could think of was Radahn's Gates of Helbar, but I think that's a very big stretch. Well, this whole video is, to be honest. The Queen's Guards, which are cards, really reminded me of the Angelic Knights of Bayonetta 2 who use joust. The Queens, I didn't really see a connection to Jebelius or Sheba, so I'm going to rule them out, but they could be references to the White Queen, the Red Queen, and the Heart Queen. Humpty Dumpty, which was the mocking alias for Eggman the Destroyer, was the first character mentioned in the prologue of Bayonetta 1. However, this could also be a reference to Through the Looking Glass. Lewis Carroll featured Humpty Dumpty in the sequel, with the classic poem. I now find it quite hard to believe that Eggman the Destroyer was an impulse decision, and could be one of the most well-kept secrets of Bayonetta since the very start. The reference could foreshadow a return of Eggman in Bayonetta 3, or according to this theory, chronologically be the first antagonist when our Cereza awakens. The ending scenes of Alice running from the Queen seem to be synonymous with Bayonetta's adventures in the second game, where she is basically in different areas in very little time. The last fight against Ace in Bayonetta 2 also showed fragments of memories and locations we've been to. This supports the REM/dream theory, since dreams do be like that, but also because Alice is shown to be sleeping under a tree. In the novel, she retells the events of the weird characters to her sister. Potentially in Bayonetta 3, Cereza is awakened and recounts the events to John, or her quote-unquote Umbran sister. It's important to know that the following should be treated as coincidences and similarities, in order to not overvalue or take the theory for granted. With all these correlations, I have concluded to 2 possible routes for the Wonderland theory. The first route is simple. The REM route version 2, which indicates not just Bayonetta 2 being a dream, but Bayonetta 1 as well. What if she could still be sleeping in her seal unawakened, and Bayonetta 3 is the time when she really awakens? Everything past the point of Antonia releasing her is all still within her head. This could really explain the absence of her mole in the Bayonetta 3 trailer allegory, since she didn't have a mole when she was sealed. If Bayonetta 1 and 2 are a dream, could this be the real Cereza, who is weaker than her dreamt imagination? Regardless of who the purple figure is, Eggman, this route is only one half of the puzzle. The second route is a little more ominous, in which I deem the AIWS route. Alice in Wonderland is not just a classic novel anymore. It's even diagnosed in our world as a neurological disorder, Alice in Wonderland syndrome, a disorder characterized by the distortions of visual perception, the body image, and the experience of time. It made me wonder, is the real Cereza not dreaming but suffering from Alice in Wonderland syndrome as a child? Could the adventures in both games have been a neurological disorder that is actually happening in our young Cereza's head, due to the isolation and discrimination she felt being a forbidden child? That's why she's so empowered in the games, and how nothing really phases her. It's also why the lore in both games are quite difficult to follow, with all the inconsistencies, historical anachronisms, time travel, and magical beings. Now, if we go even further, this is very similar to other popular hallucination theories. Finn's coma from Adventure Time, Ash's coma from Pokemon, and Rick's coma from The Walking Dead. Or you have a third route, which is a mixture of both REM and AIWS. I personally like the mixed route, but I'm leaning towards the 2 games being a dream. This was cemented when discussing the lyrics of a certain song with Phileas, one of our Rakunx moderators and Platinum Games veterans. We both tried to isolate the backing vocals of Bayonetta Patchislot's Red and Black, released in 2016. I even emailed the original singer, Miss Anna Vieste, to confirm the lyrics. To my surprise, she did. The first backing vocal was... I'm Rakun, and never get disheartened.